All right, we are back. We're back. I was just with the captain, where we did a special unboxing of his new Seiko 5 Rowing Blazers piece that he got through sheer luck, by karma, by having done a good thing, having contributed to the fundraising event that I organized here on this channel in February to aid the region, Syria and Turkey, in the aftermath of the disaster, in the aftermath of the earthquake on February 6th. And I'm so glad that's how that particular giveaway turned out. I actually happen to have one more watch to give away. So feel free to send in your suggestions for the particular method I should choose for the raffle. I have a couple of ideas, but I haven't decided yet. The watch is going to be a twin of what I'm wearing now. Um, I'm wearing the Seiko 5 Rowing Blazers collab from last year with the blue dial, with the sky blue dial that I really enjoy. Um, I have another one that I would like to give away. So if you would like to twin with me with watches, let me know how I should give it away. We had a full set, and all of them have so far gone to the community. Niche got the orange one. The captain got the lime green. Corrado Galizia got the black dial with the nautical flag um, indices, which is also very special. And I still have the blue from last year's Seiko 5 Rowing Blazers collab. Let's see if I can quickly pull up that particular piece. Yeah, there we go. So I still have this one to give away. This went to Niche, this went to Captain, this went to Corrado. We'll see how the rest turns out. All right. I'm going to continue with my coverage of the next auction, but I have a guest, Ozzy. How are you doing, man?
G'day, how you doing?
Good. How you going, man?
Do you want me to tell my dad fishing story?
Yes, please. What if that's an inside joke, I completely missed it, but
No, well, I don't
please.
know what to call it, but basically, I'm at a park this evening. Beautiful splash pad, great weather out here,
Yeah.
and this couple comes up to talk to us, and it's cool. We're all family, and we're just talking, dad and mom stuff. Your kids, what
Okay.
age, we're gonna do homeschooling, whatever. And then they start talking about financial independence and passive income. You know,
Oh, they were trying to sell you something.
they're trying to get us into their MLM, into their pyramid scheme, basically.
Tell me more. Tell me
And
more.
it's not actually uncommon out here. Just actually many times already, many times already, we've been approached in parks by young couples. Uh,
They're
as
trying
best
to
as we
sell
can
you
tell
something.
for the sole purpose of attempting to get us into their MLM. You know what an MLM is? A pyramid scheme like Amway,
Okay, but
shit like that.
what is the I know Amway, and I know a pyramid scheme when I see it,
Yeah.
as the Supreme Court judge supposedly said about pornography. But MLM, what does it abbreviate?
Oh, multi-level marketing. Basically, it's a pyramid scheme, but it's the version of the pyramid scheme that is still legal. So, so it's not timeshare. It's not that scam, but it is. You recruit. I'll recruit you. Then you go recruit another 10 people type thing. Phrases
Nice.
like "your net worth is your network," and you know,
Ooh, that's a
just
nice
all
one.
go to
Sounds good.
vitamins. But I mean,
Sounds good.
like, he wouldn't. They wouldn't take the hint, and I don't mean I'm trying to be nasty. I just mean like he clearly saw that I was wearing a Tudor and thought this guy's broke as fuck. This guy's broke as fuck. He's going to be looking for any way out possible. He's a wagey. He's a brokey. He's not wrong about me being a wagey. I mean, they did ask what we do. I'm like, uh, you know, dual income, both working for big tech for about 10 years. That doesn't immediately scream, I'm doing worse than a high school teacher, um, which he was. But I guess he's confirming proof that I was a brokey as I'm wearing the Tudor, of course. So uh, I still
You
kept
remember
talking for the
you
next
remember
hour about
Archie's you
how to
remember
make money.
Archie's you do you remember Archie's tragic story with that
No,
involves
Meech is
Twitter?
alluding to it, but
Oh my god, this is actually, I'm not even exaggerating. It is the definition of tragic because on YouTube, at least, of course, Archie didn't invent Patek Philippe. Archie didn't invent their desirability and whatever, but Archie was one of the first people to talk about the timeless class of a Patek Philippe Calatrava. The beauty of their hobnail bezels and the history of the company that has been in the holding of the Stern family for the 30s. So one day, actually, by sheer coincidence, it's not like he was fanboying or stalking, he actually comes across Thierry Stern, the
I
current
remember this
president
video.
of the
Yes.
company, and he was wearing Tudor. And he has always had very beautiful, timeless examples of Patek in his collection until what has happened recently, of course,
Hmm.
which is very sad. But
The one
he
time he
could have
meets
he
Stern, yeah.
he could have been wearing his world time. He should have been wearing his world time because he was traveling. He loves Patek. He goes crazy about what that watch inspires. He could have been wearing his annual calendar, which his father introduced, right? Philip Stern introduced as something that was quite prophetic, in making sort of complicated watches for the everyday. He could have been wearing one of his Calatravas. He had two Calatravas in his collection by last standing. One hand wound, one self winding, etc. No, he was wearing his Tudor Black Bay 58, and that is tragic because imagine, I mean, it's
Uh,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah. Well, for him, it was always going to be the cheapest watch in his collection that he was traveling with. I mean, that is what effectively he was doing when he was wearing the Polar
That's
on the
right.
US trip. I think, like, if I remember his collection, there
Yeah,
was the
more or
Polar.
less. I mean,
Yeah.
look, in I I don't really um I don't try to convince people otherwise. People should always do what they feel is right. But for me, um yes, I ideally don't try to travel for more than one watch, even though I'm crazy and I would really like to have like one watch for every day or something.
Yeah.
But usually if it's a significant trip for me, and I'm not a world traveler kind really. When I go on a trip, it is a significant trip for me, and I want to wear a nice watch while I'm on that trip. It's so I don't, from a personal standpoint, I don't understand why people travel with their least favorite piece usually, even though that's absolutely logical
Mm.
because people say, hey, it won't break my heart if I lose it, if it gets stolen, if it suddenly disappears from from the lockbox in the, I don't even want to call it a safe in the hotel room.
Right.
So I understand.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I've got like there's a couple watches that are very good for travel. I'm traveling next week for work, and I really like my Explorer 2 Polar and Submariner. I could probably do the Hulk if I wanted to, but probably usually would stick to the black. Those I would do for traveling. However, I'm doing like one watch at a time these days.
Yeah.
Mostly speaking, and so I had to go to the bank because banks closed over the weekend, and I had to choose like the watch that's good for Mother's Day and for work, and it comes down to just Mother's Day basically. So I've got the Batgirl out. That's my anniversary watch. She's wearing the watch for Maddie. So Seattle will be with the Batgirl, or the
Nice.
Tudor. I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
We'll see. I haven't decided.
both have some blue in it. That is cool.
I really don't want to travel with the Batgirl. Not that I think it's not good for travel. It's just
Pardon me.
I've got a one-on-one with my VP and stuff, and I'm begging for a pay rise effectively. It's like Archie's yellow gold sub, no, white gold sub, was it? When he up, no, it was a gold sub either way when he one upped someone who was above him in his workplace, and then shortly after no longer had a job. You'll soon find out how the Batgirl goes in Seattle, perhaps if I'm
Yeah.
on your stream in a couple of weeks saying I don't have a job anymore.
Well, please, you know, please, please do have a job unless you are tendering your resignation yourself, because we did we did kind of talk about it even on the stream. So
Yeah,
I don't feel bad about saying this, but you were
yeah,
saying that you perhaps, when you are moving into your 40s, perhaps you want to do something where you have a passion project rather than working for a salary. So if that's your choice, of course, that's another issue. But hopefully
sure.
you don't you don't lose your job while you are asking for a raise. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's we'll see. Should be fun. I mostly want to stick to the Batgirl just because I've got a good friend out there, and his grail is a Batgirl, and I don't think he's
Mm.
ever really seen one. So I want to be able to catch up in that way. But at the same time, it's t-shirt weather, and man, that's a flashy watch.
It is, and I was gonna ask you that actually, because that's the only Rolex you own that has a Jubilee bracelet. Am I
Exactly.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And thinking about the whole like getting a Pepsi on the Oyster, I'm slowly thinking like I pulled the Batgirl out, on Thursday actually, and it's pointless. It's pointless. Like
It
I would,
is.
yeah, just getting a Pepsi and it's just pointless. Like I don't need that. If I've got tons of Oyster bracelet watches. To most lay people, the sub looks indistinguishable from the GMT, especially the Pepsi. Like the colors are very toned down, and so the only thing that would distinguish it is the PCLs. But my Daytona's got those polished center links on the Oyster bracelet,
Yeah.
and it's like I've got no shortage of flash basically. So yeah, it'd be thoroughly pointless. So I've squarely turned away from even getting the oyster bracelet for the GMT or Pepsi by by proxy doing that. So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Some people just like they can't add two and two together in terms of like. I guess this guy doesn't actually have much money himself because he should have realized that. Oh, okay, two tech workers, big tech, 10 years plus, probably wasn't their first job either. Um, like nothing's out here. And we both asked like which part of town we live in
Right.
as well. And like, the postcode I live in, it's literally the highest income in the city. I don't know why they thought they were wasting time. I was trying to turn the conversation to something more interesting, even, just a natural
For example,
conversation.
for
Well,
example,
he was talking about like spending time and stuff like that. And I said, for us, it's always actually been, in the medium term, we'd like a lifestyle business. It's not actually about money for us. We would like a business that would just sustain our life in terms of we'd like to have fun. You know what I mean? There are some things in life that you can do with money just as a consumer. And then there's other things that are also fun, but you actually have to have a business to do that. So, for example, you can't run a restaurant for fun. You know what I mean? You actually need to get health licenses and have real cooks and actually
trust me,
make real food for people.
that's actually a tough business. Not to say that you can't have a restaurant or a cafe or a lounge of some sort as your leisure business,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's a lot
Sure.
of
Yeah. I mean,
headache,
I told him exactly that. It's
especially
like
for the
success.
first few years.
Yeah. For success in a lot of these businesses that you could enter and you might enjoy, success is measured typically, like if it's successful, I have not successfully drained my entire bank account after 5 years doing it. That's that's success for that type of business typically.
Yeah.
Not
Look, I mean,
successfully drained everything.
uh, a lot of restaurants that I know are solidly in the red for the first year. If
Yeah.
they're lucky, maybe they will see some sort of profit on their second year. The only restaurant that I've seen that got a great start is a friend of mine actually owns a gas station. So he separated part of um, the mart they have there and built it as a restaurant, as a chicken restaurant for his son. And
Oh, okay.
people, for whatever reason, I don't quite understand.
Which city?
People
Just so
go
I'm getting
crazy.
culture.
Southern California.
Oh, okay.
People go crazy about chicken sandwiches in this country. I don't know
Right.
if you have noticed. It's insane. It's a huge
Yeah, yeah.
trend now. I mean,
I
even
was actually talking to my wife. We went out for fried chicken for dinner, and I said, "You, me, we got to my wife, we got to run Summerlin's only Church's chicken."
nice. That
Because like you don't find
how
them in the nicer
romantic.
areas. I'm like,
How
there is no
romantic
fried
also.
chicken restaurants in all of Summerlin.
How romantic as well. You and me one day.
Hey,
Um,
we did our own business together. We travel around Southeast Asia, 2 backpacks, 2 young kids. It was fun. We could do it again, but we got kids now.
man, I mean, it's no, it's an amazing ride, man. I mean, you just celebrated your 10th anniversary. You have two beautiful kids. God bless.
Very, very lucky. And I don't know, last year I got the bomb that I'm not I'm not my father's biological son, and that means I don't have certain very devastating genetic inherited diseases. So I'm like, I won a lottery I didn't even know was possible. For sure.
Right. That's I mean, talk about the silver lining, because
Well,
that can be a tough pill to swallow. I mean, I don't want to presume anything, but
yeah.
it's to
No,
figure
it
something
was
like that
solidly
out.
good news. It doesn't change my relationship or how I think about my dad. I think higher of him because he treated me that well, despite I wasn't biologically his son. and I don't have, the rheumatoid arthritis was the thing that he had. He also had extremely weak lungs. He effectively died of old age at 62. Like, my time horizon for my life was like, sometime early 40s, I might get rheumatoid arthritis, so my quality of life will be vanished pretty soon, and my actual life might be vanished in my early 60s. But as far as I know, I'm probably normal.
That's great. And, that's good news for Aussie Expat the Third as well.
No,
Uh,
exactly. It was a huge load off our minds. Like, at the time, we said, okay, maybe we should think about a third child. Let's fill the minivan. And then the little girl got just a little bit older, just escaped out of true infancy into babyhood, and then it's like things got exponentially more difficult. And I'm like, I think our next stop is vasectomy. This is not
Speaking of,
working out well.
I mean, since we are on this casual conversation mode, this is, uh, you know, the red pill, a huge manosphere community on
Oh, I
these
love it.
YouTube
Yeah,
streets.
totally. Don't get married, guys. Like, jeez.
But their most recent shtick is to um, advise men on getting vasectomies, like advise single men on
Right.
getting vasectomies. I mean, what is this pull out game week? You don't know how to use rubber. Practice
Yeah,
safe
I,
sex, man.
I, I don't know what to
What is
say
this?
about that. Like,
Like I don't mean to judge people for how they, you know, carry themselves around, how they handle their private business, how they conduct their sex lives, whatever. But yeah, what happened to what happened to condoms, man?
yeah, exactly. I've never understood that, but you know, I, I think I'm in the minority, but I've, I've always had no problem with condoms. Like, the peace of mind that it gives me is fine. That's just perfectly fine. Like, it's never been an issue. But I don't know. Like, if you, hey, look, to bring up another topic. Also, I'm circumcised, so like, sex doesn't actually feel that good for the folks among us that are circumcised. So I wouldn't worry about that much.
Really? I don't know. I'm always enjoying myself.
Well, yeah, you can enjoy yourself for sure, but I mean, yeah, I'm an intactivist. I'm a circumcised intactivist. It
Mm,
doesn't make any sense to be chopping off that part of the penis, and
well,
I'm sure the guys who are actually intact are actually having more fun.
well, the grass is always greener on the other side.
Maybe.
To put it on the most mind-numbingly pedestrian way possible. But look, I mean, um, as an abstract argument, I can understand it. I have respect for it. I have met pretty raging activists on this particular issue on the street who accosted me. Um, that was obnoxious. Uh, but that being said, for me, it means something. It's technically the
Right.
only tattoo that I have, and it marks the covenant for me.
Sure.
It is
Yeah.
my, for me, it's my bond to the one, to the one creator.
Sure. I
So
understand it from a religious
for that,
perspective, but
yeah,
the
for
majority of
that, I
Americans
think,
are getting circumcised despite not being Jewish, which is unheard of outside of America, basically.
yeah, it is an interesting argument from a medical perspective, and obviously I'm not prepared or even qualified to have that debate. But I think with everything going on, especially today, I find it sometimes curious, sometimes disconcerting that there is actually a strong impulse from all sides of the political aisle to try to ban or curtail circumcision of children, which, again, I mean, you want to kind of disavow it as a medical practice or be more informed, give people more information about potential effects of it. But for certain countries in Europe having already banned it, I find it strangely anti-Semitic and Islamophobic to issue something outright like that, because that's
Right.
what families believe. That's what families believe in bringing a child and raising a child in this world. I know Christopher Hitchens, whom I actually really like, had some very interesting and fiery debates about this with even rabbis. Um, so I respect each position, but I feel like, I'm always, especially when it comes to these sorts of decisions, I'm always very suspicious of government intervention into people's bodies directly.
Right.
Now, I'm not gonna go somewhere else with that because it is truly
Well,
dangerous on
I'm an
YouTube.
anarchist, so
But
I would never be really trying to talk about kinds of legislation and stuff like that.
yeah,
It's certainly like the populace that has no religious sensitivity around it, and they're getting it just for the pure cosmetics of it, and it's just completely wild because there's no reason not, even if it is just cosmetics, there's no reason not to just allow the kid to grow up and choose for themselves as an adult. Do they want to get circumcised? Like, it doesn't seem like it would ever become anyone's highest priority to go and do it, but they would always have the choice.
yeah. I mean, cosmetics, I think, is the weakest argument among all, and you know, there's a very specific reason in Greek sculpture. Uh, the the penis is always depicted as outrageously small, right? Um, and there's a particular reason on that, because ancient Greeks had a very strong commitment in developing their mind and soul as much, if not more, than the body. And their idea was it is vain to depict people with schlongs. It's just it's bad form, right? So I feel like, that kind of obsession with anyone's genitalia, your own or others, is a little, unseemly, sus, as the young people would call it. Anyway, I mean, cos who cares? I mean, who cares how it looks, honestly? If you like it, your partner likes it, it's all good. I mean, it's that's the weakest argument. I know there are some medical studies that go any which way, but man, I mean, who cares?
Yeah. What was the other thing? Oh, my AD, my
Right.
essay.
Please tell me more about that, because so you received some bad news which we didn't share yet.
Yeah.
In the
So
first instance.
it's all public knowledge within like her clients and the business and everything. So my essay is retiring. So this is a phase of the relationship that everyone should always be looking forward to, as in like no one is an SA for Rolex forever, right? It's just that simple. Like it's going to happen at some point. And I think a lot of people are experiencing this right now because a lot are changing their financial relationships with their SAs and the businesses. So I won't reveal that, but like there's some incentive to leave, basically, not a layoff, but just sort of things are not as lucrative. And yeah, so they're leaving. I consider my SA like a true friend. So I fully plan on keeping in touch and meeting up all the time, regardless of this, them leaving Rolex. But yeah, so they've earmarked someone who'll be my new SA, and for the most part, I don't think it'll matter. As in, like the relationship is over, basically. Like it's too much work for someone who's an SA to take on someone else's clients and
Mm.
then serve them well. I think ultimately for them to care, like care as much as my previous SA. So we're going to quickly discover like how much purchase history really does matter, because I'm effectively starting at, not 0-0. I do know this person. We get along. But it is in that sort of space. It's
Mm.
we're going to find out what we're going to get. Thankfully, though, I don't need anything more from Rolex. I need a bit of an FU piece. Um, what was very unusual to me was I'm normally quite discreet about what I ask for, and I don't normally talk about watches with my SA. Like, I'll talk to them about what I want, like maybe once every 6 months, something
Okay.
like that. And I may visit like more than once a month.
You
It's
you
it's
talk
just that.
you talk about donuts, pastries,
Yeah,
sweet.
talk about donuts, pastries, Las Vegas happenings. We were talking about being threatened to be stabbed.
That
So
must have been an interesting
yeah,
conversation.
yeah. So at the Rolex booth, they had, how they've got the exhibition pieces. Most ADs don't seem to have true exhibition pieces where the movements are locked at 10, 10, 28. So some of them actually are real. Now at this
Can I
one,
remind you
go
of
ahead.
something, Ozzy? When I first told you this, you were kind of incensed at me. I said, like, a lot of these exhibition pieces are real, and they're either earmarked and for sale for someone else, or even not even that, and they're just duplicates of what they have in the vault, because otherwise
Mhm.
they wouldn't even be bringing them out. Do you remember that conversation?
Not
No.
not really, no. I mean there was certainly confusion at the time when this was happening. But I was only, if I was wrong, if what I was saying was that exhibition pieces are only pieces that have locked movements, no
Right.
movement, I was definitely wrong. Not wrong at my AD though. So all of their stuff is locked, locked movement, whatever, just dead movement, dummy movement. But they did actually have an Oyster Perpetual in the case one time that actually had a movement. And
Mm.
this guy goes, "No, that one's got a movement. You have to sell it to me." And he got immediately like angry at like, you know, 9 out of 10 anger level. And my essay was like immediately backing off, walking away. and she's just like pointing to the security guards, like, "Get him out." like and then the guy goes, "Hey, you're making our staff feel uncomfortable. We're asking you to leave." And he goes, "You have to sell me that watch or I'm gonna stab you." It's like, so, so apparently the security guy's like, "Well, if you try to stab me, I'm gonna shoot you in the face." So yeah, so trouble on the strip with
God, man.
non-dummy movement watches.
Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing we talk about. And my next door neighbor, for some reason,
Yeah.
they had, there was like a helicopter, and it was like a little bird, the like in Black Hawk Down, like the black one, like the small one,
Hmm.
but it was a police helicopter just circling over our house, and there were like police cruisers all over the place, and
What's going on?
our neighbor, like they always have supercars, like a new supercar every like 3 days. We figure that they're involved in some sort of commercial car business, whether it's rentals, probably rentals, considering their cars like Ferrari Tributos, Lamborghinis, Aston Martins, like anything and everything, basically.
I hope so. I mean, if they're renting themselves, that would run a bill very quickly.
Exactly. Exactly. And we don't live in an area that's that nice that someone would have such a collection and live next door to me. I live in a nice area, but not that nice. Um, so so we figure that. But anyway, I'm like, geez, what the hell's going on? I still don't know. I still don't know. There was one neighbor said there was like a homeless person trying to break into one of their cars or something.
Mm.
And I'm like, wow, in Seattle, if they brought out a helicopter and multiple police cruisers over an attempted break into a car, that would be amazing. Right? It's just you can do a hit and run in Seattle, the police won't show up. Um, but yeah, we don't know. But I mean, one picture we had was like with the police there, and their Porsche was the car that was out front, a purple Porsche. And then we were coming home from lunch, and the police had all gone already. And we noticed that the rear window of the Porsche was now smashed. I'm like, how
Wow.
does what's happened there? How's there some crime reported, police show up, and then the Porsche's rear window is smashed open after the fact? Well, after the police turn up, I was like, I have, I can't, I can't put two
Curious.
and two together. I've got no idea what what's going on.
And you're usually good at putting two and two together. I mean,
No, it's
you
it's
have a good
bewildering.
head of
Why would the car be smashed after the police had come and left? It just doesn't make any sense. I don't
It's
I don't
not.
know.
No.
So that's the kind of thing we talk about at the AD. Like I don't talk about watches with them.
So, you have mentioned already that they're handling the transition and they have assigned you to
Yeah,
another
yeah.
sales
In,
associate.
in USA.
Um, and
What was
and your sales
interesting.
associate has not yet officially left. Is that what it is? Like,
Correct. Final day is next week. I was hoping on Friday that we could do an official handover, like a little bit of time, a little less time pressure. Like I don't want to do that on literally their last day,
okay,
but it probably will have to be. Um,
like
what
two boxes of donuts, one for each kind of thing. What are we talking
Well,
about
I'm
here?
I'm gonna have to learn what this person likes, so we're gonna have to figure this new one out. Whether it's fruit baskets from now on, I don't know. Um,
Or
what
maybe it's
what was
just a
very weird
change
was
of
that
flavor, like Boston custard, Boston cream, raspberry.
macaroons maybe. We'll see. We'll switch it up. We'll switch it up. We'll figure out what works. Um, what was
Sorry,
very weird was my essay openly talking about securing the platinum Daytona, like lining it
the new
up, like
one or the old one?
the new one.
Okay.
And the manager even talked to me. I was like, "Oh, I knew you'd want the platinum. I knew you'd want that one." So they're openly talking about it as if it's going to happen, which is, I don't know. I half think it's sort of a coping mechanism, as in there's going to be a lot of pissed off clients. I'm not one of
Yeah.
them, but reassuring them that their needs are still supported or something is, I don't know. I don't know. If it's an act, it's an elaborate one, but at the same time, I can't imagine being in that position because I mean, as a Rolex dealer, basically you leave everyone hanging. It's a
Hmm.
simple fact. You get hundreds of people a day who'll never get what they want.
Yeah, but I mean, look, the first when the new lineup was announced, when the news came out of Geneva for Watches and Wonders 2023, most people were outright told if they were still waiting on a Daytona that their chances were even slimmer. Now, a lot of those people were people who were just waiting for a Daytona, sometimes to the tune of years.
Right.
You have an established relationship, where, again, as you mentioned, I'm translating for autistic people like me in the audience. You have a human relationship with your sales associate. You have a social relationship with your sales associate that In your case, doesn't even involve watches that much or primarily, but ideally that's the sort of relationship that you cultivate with someone that extends beyond the world of watches. Of course, it's great as well when you have someone in a certain boutique or authorized dealer where you are a nerd, they're a nerd, they love talking watches. There's nothing wrong with that, don't take me wrong. um
Sure.
but yeah,
I
you
mean, be
already have
careful what you wish for. I mean, I doubt you would like a clone of yourself.
If they are of the opposite sex, I would like that very much, actually. Just to put it out there in the universe, uh, you know, I would like that very much. But no, actually, I have a hard time living in myself, with myself every day. I would really not like a clone of myself. But as close as it gets to me from the opposite gender, I'll take it happily.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
we will live happily ever after.
That's interesting. No, my wife and I we're honestly, there's a lot of aspects of each other that are complementary and not similar. Yeah, it's
Honestly,
I
I think that's ideal if we are really serious about it. But yeah, I also enjoy the company of people who are just as passionate about watches, but in a slightly different vein. Even if the passion and kind of the obsessive quest for knowledge is the same. And oftentimes, again, I'm all about opening up the hobby and not throwing up strange obstacles and rules around certain pieces. But by and large, most women have very distinct tastes in watches, even if some of them still go after hype pieces that men also like. A lot of times they do introduce a different perspective.
mhm.
So it can help.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's good to that they're not devoid of, knowledge and some interest, but it's also unlikely that any given SA truly likes this stuff. Like it as best as I can tell, they all enjoy just hanging out. As in, like if they can just hang out and not talk watches for a little while if a client, that's
Yeah.
that's a little bit of fun. So
And who
I
doesn't?
know most
Who
of the
doesn't, right?
SAs there. I know like what their family setup is like, some of their passions and stuff like that. Seems like a common passion is Cartier jewelry and all kinds of handbags. So
For sure.
so they all like the luxury goods. It just doesn't happen to be watches necessarily.
No, I mean that's also a very usual trajectory, by the way. And you're right to emphasize, the majority of sales associates who sell watches, yes, some of them are exceptionally passionate. It varies by your experience, but a lot of them are very knowledgeable and experienced as well. But most of them come to selling watches from other aspects of the luxury market, right? They may have worked in the same mall, on the same streets, selling handbags. They may have been a sales associate before in Louis Vuitton or Hermes or Gucci, Prada, and suddenly they see an interesting position. Maybe they know the language that that boutique primarily attracts in terms of clientele. Like, let's say you can speak Chinese, and suddenly you see, a much more lucrative opportunity for you. Hey, I'll learn about watches. And some of those people end up being more knowledgeable and passionate with others who have 2 decades of selling experience in watches. So you never know. But that is the usual path. Most sales associates in watch boutiques just come from other luxury good brands.
What do you think the hierarchy is actually? Is it bags, watches, jewelry in terms of like what their career progression they would like it to be?
That I don't know. Maybe I should bring in a guest for that. But I think, not to use it as a pun, but I think people at Hermes who sell bags, they who get allocations for some of these desirable bags, they do make a bag. They do break the
Interesting.
bank. Um, but I can imagine that, when it comes to places like Van Cleef, Cartier, Harry Winston, and other like Mikimoto, these sorts of really high end jewelry
Mm.
places, I'm sure that can also, involving commissions on some high ticket items, can be otherworldly. But you do have to be in places like New York, Los Angeles, if we are talking about the US,
Yeah.
Vegas. Um, Whereas I think, handbags are a little more global, I feel.
Hmm.
US wide global. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't mean it.
Every high end store has two Louis Vuittons. I mean, high end mall.
Yeah,
Like every city's got a high end mall. You can go to almost any city in the world and buy a Louis Vuitton, and there'll be multiple. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because I mean, my wife purchased her very first luxury bag, not a super high end brand, just Gucci. She just loved the look. It's a Diana. She got the one with like the bamboo handles, and
nice.
that's just her. You can see the palm leaves. She wanted the palm DJ. She just loves this sort of jungle theme stuff. So she doesn't care that Gucci isn't the highest end brand. And we already looked at like the
I'm a,
whole.
I'm a huge fan of Gucci, but I know maybe it's not the first place you go for a woman's handbag, but I've always
Mhm.
adored everything that they make, honestly. Um, yeah, even now, I don't particularly appreciate the style when it comes to the men's stuff they produce, but every time I go into the store, there's always one or two items that really impress me by the quality of fabric they use, or by a few details they inject into some houseware kind of item. um yeah, they're great. I'm a huge fan of Gucci, but I see something in your future. Maybe you will also have a rack behind you with women's handbags, so
I
you
hope
can
not.
talk about them. You can sniff them. You can rub them against your face. Like someone we know. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope not. So, I mean, my wife really did her homework. She really did her homework, and bags are not a great market. They're not a great collectible at all. Like
What do you mean by that?
as best as I can tell, there is not a single bag that appreciates in value. I'm not saying there isn't a bag that you can buy that has higher value
Hmm.
than you paid for, but appreciation is the act of it moving up. They all just move down. Like if you actually use the damn thing, the wear can get the value of that bag down to zero, basically. But it would be hard. You'd be hard pressed to to wear out a Rolex to the extent that it's valueless, right? Like it's actually the shoddy repairs that make a Rolex undesirable, not necessarily the primary use. Like primary use, yeah, it'll be the difference between pristine and heavily worn.
Hmm.
That might be what 30% of value. It still won't be like 50% of value. It won't be. You're not going to get a Hulk half price just because someone wore it a lot.
No, no. I mean, again, it depends. Sometimes, we are talking hypothetically, of course. But hey, good night, quicker than drawing. Nice to see you. I'm glad to see you here, and I hope you have subscribed. It was nice having you for both of the live streams. Um, I mean, obviously, we are still talking about relatively. Well, I mean, Hulk has been discontinued, but it's been what, only 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's still a relatively new piece. So it depends, but in vintage stuff, you know, that heavy wearing can mean a bunch of different things. So it's a whole can
It's
of
true.
worms. Um, like if you have uh, a very beautiful uh, piece of a choice example, Eric talks about this very specifically and intelligently in both his collecting vintage watches videos, that lectures that he gave at the Horological Society of New York. And it's basically 10 to 1, right? Desirable vintage models, pristine condition, will sell for 10. One that has been worn to bits and has a damaged dial, uh, lugs that have been polished down to a toothpick, will sell for 1. So for long-term value, it has something to do with it. So keeping your watches, you know, in a good
Sure,
condition
sure, but
still matter.
the 10 you're talking about is like literally unworn?
Not necessarily. No.
Okay, okay. Well, I mean, getting it down to 1 isn't going to happen by wearing it. It's usually because it's been polished to within an inch of its life. Like that kind of undesirability doesn't happen because the person wore it, because they kept, putting it through the ringer and polishing it like a madman.
The actually Eric has this nightmare scene in his mind. He says, my personal hell is being tied to a chair with duct tape covering my mouth, uh, and placing me in the polishing room of a Rolex service center. So it says that would be my personal hell.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't. I think Archie, if you don't mind me mentioning, it typically doesn't like this talk about being against polishing. Like every time I've seen it brought up in front of him, he usually says, "You don't know what you're talking about. You're, fuck off or whatever." Um, I try not to be don't polish it snob, but whenever I see a watch that has been polished, like obviously polished because I can see the problems, I
Yeah.
really cringe. To me, I don't want to touch that watch at all. Like just at all. I really dislike it. I saw this Daytona, this two-tone Daytona, and it was just soft. Like all the engravings in the bezel and the corners, and it was just soft, and I just sort of it's just completely undesirable to me. But it good for the people who don't mind. I'm not trying to inflict that view, and I do think I've seen many examples of polishings and refurbishments that look fantastic, and I'm like,
For
oh,
sure.
that's
I,
good,
I
that's
I
good.
think it's like you said, Oz, it is a spectrum first and foremost, right? And I'm never in the business of telling other people what to do with their own watches. But I also know, after decades of ownership, if your habit has been to turn your watch, for a seasonal polishing at your local um, shop, not necessarily even a Rolex authorized dealer, chances are that it's going to, like you said, first of all, it's going to lose its factory finish and move away from that significantly. And, in time, it will simply fade away and become unrecognizable. But there are people who know how to professionally refinish the watch, even without adding material, even without involving CNC. And some brands actually, like Alang und Söhne, for example, actually, when they bring in a piece that needs that kind of care, that has a lot of dings, they actually add material and then refinish the piece. So it's there are so many ways of refinishing, refurbishing, and restoring watches, some of which are absolutely kosher. Maybe universally, you can say, although there's never a universal in this particular hobby. I respect everyone's taste and preference. There are certain ways that should be a no-no for just about everyone,
Hmm.
but somewhere in the middle, there's nothing wrong if you want to, turn in your watch when the time comes for service, 7 years after you purchased it, maybe a decade after you purchased it, and
Yeah.
you want it to feel new, and you're sending it to the official service center of the brand. That might not be so bad.
I really wish I knew how good or bad RSC is now. Like, the RSC is much maligned by many, but I
Mm.
don't know how much of that has to do with like their practices 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. And so Eric Wind, his experience is like, oh, this went through RSC because it's just been buffed to shit, you know. But he's talking about, typically he's looking at older pieces. He's not dealing with like 2022 Batman, you know. It's just not the kind of watch
Very,
that he's.
very rarely, very rarely, very
Yeah,
rarely. I mean, Eric is an expert in vintage watches, vintage Rolex. He is the king
that's his
this side of
wheelhouse.
the
Yeah,
Atlantic.
yeah.
But that being said, he does deal with some new watches too. I don't want to turn people away from
From that, okay, sure, sure.
vintage in any way.
Yeah,
But that being said, of course, yes, he has been passionate about vintage watches. He came through the auction house experience before it tipped now solidly towards hyped watches and new independents. Now you see in auctions more watches that represent watches in production and watches that are extremely exclusive and unobtainable elsewhere, or watches from the new emerging and already established independents. They sell less and less vintage watches. So um, that world has changed too. And yes, look, with Rolex RSC, I think it's hard to say one thing or another, because that's the general problem with Rolex, right?
yeah.
There's just so many different practices that they don't exactly regulate so methodically. Some RSC might change dials, others would say absolutely not. Some might want to take your Jubilee bracelet from you when they're giving you an Oyster bracelet for your GMT Master 2. Others, don't even ask for it, and they just charge you for the new bracelet and install it for you. That's it. So you never know for sure.
It does seem to be hit and miss. I've 100% seen examples of RSC finishes that I would say, but that looks great. Looks great. You know, I wouldn't be able to tell, and it looks fantastic. Looks good as new, and worse for wear of it. You know, it looks great. But I've also seen recent examples where they've clearly done the wrong thing. Like,
Mm.
I know someone talking about a date just, and it wasn't an older date just, but it was a recent service that it went through, and they polished the right hand side so much that the crown no longer actually was like flush against the case. There was so much
Mm.
case material removed that there was like a gap, and you could see the shaft, I guess, of the crown, like
Stem. Yeah.
the stem. No, it's not. It's not the stem, because the stem is like what goes into that
Mm.
part, that the tube.
I
But
see.
anyway, so there's examples on both sides, and to me, there's very little chance of being like super happy. As in, even if you got your watch and it looks as good as new, I'm sure you weren't unhappy with it looking with all of your wear. At least most people aren't like super unhappy. You could be made slightly happier with a new one. I don't know. But I'm sure you can also be made like very unhappy and irreversibly unhappy if they do a really bad job. And the other flip side, the other bad part about that is not only are you unhappy, no one else wants to buy it as well.
That's right. And so you think so you think there's a chance for you this for this platinum Daytona? Is that possible?
Hey man, their acting ability was strong enough that I think it's possible. I've heard some other things about it, that this particular Platona is going to be much harder to get
Yeah.
for different reasons than even the previous platinum. So I don't know. I saw a few meteorites. I saw a meteorite go out today on Rolex forums, like someone got one, and I'm like,
Okay.
hey man, I, fuck. Can you tell everyone I want the meteorite and not that? Like, if they're still coming in for the next couple of months, I want one. You know, it's probably easier than the new platinum Daytona, even now. So well,
Possibly.
I'll talk to them
Possibly.
on Friday. It's hard to say. Certainly, the meteorite was harder than the platinum Daytona, but it does seem like the new platinum Daytona will be harder than even the meteorite has been. So we'll see. The one thing that I'm warming up to about the platinum Daytona is that the 60th is also, so the anniversary year also happens to be my birth year as well.
Yeah.
So big 40, so big 60 for Daytona. So there is some, stupid numerology romance about the choice as well. So
Right.
I'm not aloof to that.
Why not? I mean, I mentioned this before when you made the reference. Um, Jordan is 60 years old this year,
Oh,
so
wow.
he's just as old as the Daytona, and he has been photographed wearing the previous version of the Platinum Daytona. So
Wow.
uh,
Hey, that's
he
an
got it
interesting
for his.
perspective, actually. Like the platinum Daytona is always the anniversary Daytona, and even if I turn 41, it would still be the anniversary Daytona, which
Right.
is still lining up with my birth year. So maybe the time horizon isn't as short as I think it should be. But there is the dilemma. I was telling you about that dad fishing problem earlier,
Right.
and the platinum Daytona has zero FU value, basically.
Well, it's not an obvious FU value. Let's put it this way.
Exactly. I need to be able to go into the shittiest neighborhoods of Las Vegas, go to their splash park, and not have people coming up to me trying to join their pyramid scheme. It needs to be obvious.
Well, I mean, look, any kind of Daytona is in a way very obvious and a very attractive watch. I was talking to an older gentleman, um, 82 years old, right, who was wearing a 16523, a two-tone Daytona from the Zenith age that he bought, from an authorized dealer when early 90s, not when they first came out. And he was saying he wears that because he's afraid to wear his day date. And I told him, man, I mean, he's a big gun guy as well, right? So he was like, I would shoot someone before they take my watch from me. And I said, if you think in this day and age that a Rolex day date makes you more liable for that kind of thing than a Daytona, you are sorely mistaken. Actually, Daytona is by definition, any kind of Daytona is more recognizable and more desirable, and more of a target on your back if you're thinking in that way than a gold watch. So
Interesting. I don't know, man. You're correct for the professionals who want to do this, but I
right,
think gold is still gold. So for the people who are
for
not
sure.
really well versed, they'll probably still think the Day Date 36 is like way above like even the Platinum Daytona. Beautiful, beautiful watch, but
I mean, look, I'm not gonna contest that, but on the other hand, um Rolex and the Daytona are crossover products in a way, right? You don't necessarily have to know much about watches at all to know that a Rolex is worth something. And
right.
in this day and age, Daytona has become the kind of flagship that the day dates and, in a way, also the Submariner once was for Rolex. So it is very recognizable, actually. I mean, um, but you're right. By and large, a gold watch probably. I mean, look, if you really want full Monty, you can wear you can find the John Mayer, and probably that would get you the most
Get you into
attention.
trouble. Get you
Right?
into the most trouble.
Yeah, right and wrong. But yeah, that will probably get you the most attention.
Uh,
Wow! Happy birthday, belated, John Chen. Happy
yeah, I hope you
birthday,
have a
John.
good 60th. I hope your 50s were good, and here's for some good health for all of us celebrating big
Yeah.
milestone decades.
Yes, I'm catching up. I'm catching up. I'm right behind you, Ozzy. I have my 40 coming up next year in November.
Yeah. And I've completely given up on birth year watches, by the way. Like, I mean, we're all talking about anniversaries and births and stuff. Like, there's like, for example, John Chan here getting a 60th birth year watch. That like, don't don't try. That would be really really stupid. For my 40th, I was trying to find a birth year watch. It's just not common enough. Like the vintage market is complicated enough without trying to nail down a bloody year. It's just
Right.
I fully given up. Just not even gonna try at this point.
Yeah. Look, I mean, when it comes to Rolex, it's always a crapshoot, anyways. When it comes to dating the watches with the serials, of course, the serial ranges have been more or less figured out, but it's never for certain. And I do side with professional vintage dealers when it comes to this, that one should always prioritize condition over everything else. Don't just seek a birthday watch and pay a premium for that, where you can get a watch that is older or newer but in a better condition, perhaps sometimes for less. Because trust me, I mean, unless they go crazy and turn you away, if you want to contact a vintage watch dealer for a birthday watch, trust that they will try to charge you a premium for that anyway. So it's like a very bad position to start searching and negotiating to begin with. But all of that being said, when it comes to Rolex, uh, there are a few things that you can get that are not absolutely, you know but you could buy a very nice house in most parts of the US with the money you could pay for a lot of interesting Rolexes from 83, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, try getting a Daytona, for example, from 83.
Oh,
That's a lot of
geez.
money.
I don't even recall exactly which reference number is accurate for that time period. But yeah, there's certain watches that are just like that's not on list. I'm not I don't bother setting up alerts for when I was actually hunting for this stuff. Like the Explorer 2, the 1655,
Mhm.
the 16750, the fat lady. So
Right.
I've seen a lot of near hits like 1984, but technically it was introduced in 1983. I just have found zero examples of it even existing, and certainly an Explorer 1016 just not going to happen. Like it's just there's just yeah, there's model references that you can try go for, but they're astronomical as is, and then try to do the birth year stuff just wrong.
Yeah.
Just wrong.
Eric Wind is a big enemy of this birth year craze. It's one of his pet peeves still to this day. Um,
He's lost too many deals.
the see, for example, a 6263, like big red Daytona, silver or black dial, that could be great, but you might need a 250,000 if you want one in great condition. And so
Yeah.
that
I mean, the only one that I sort of started off like, I like that watch, and it happens to be a potential for birth year, was the one I talked to you in the early days about, and that
yeah,
was the GMT Root Beer 16753. I still like that watch. It's just there's so few examples of that watch that come up on the market full stop, that if as soon as you apply a year range to it, it's like I've seen two in 2 years basically come up.
yeah, there are not many options. And when they were much cheaper, I mean, when I got mine, you were talking about, at most $4,000-5,000. Not now. It's a much tricky thing. It's just not worth it overall. I've never seen the charm of it. I understand. For me, when I think about birth year watches, I think about it in the way you have already done, in a certain way. As a father, or as a mother, you you go out and get a watch for your newborn, with the intention, hey, I'm celebrating my fatherhood, but I'm also choosing a piece that I can, at the right moments in the future, give to my daughter, give to my son, as an heirloom.
Yeah.
Whether they like watches or not, to hell with that. But that's um, that's my watch that I got the year you were born, and I want you to keep it. I think that's a birth year watch for me. That's the meaningful one.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. So, I think that's what I've set out to cover with you. I do need to get back to try and get some kids to bed. Really appreciate our
I
time.
understand. Yeah, my pleasure, man. It's always nice to have you, Aussie. I'll drop the link again. Please do subscribe to Aussie Expat Watches as well. He's always here, covering a bunch of different topics with me, with the watches, aiding me with his analytical approach. And you can see much more of that on his channel, which is growing. So please subscribe and help him out a little bit. We will get him eventually to at least 1,000. And he made a promise. He's gonna make a reveal behind the scenes for the members of the Discord. Do you remember your promise still, Ozzy? Or will
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
to
We
remind
had another community member seemingly looking to be in positions uncouth.
you? That's amazing.
All right. Have fun, everyone. Have a good Saturday night.
Good night, Ozzy. Take care. All right. Thank you, Aussie Expat, for sharing your time with us. I hope you do get a watch to celebrate your 40th and the 10th anniversary of your marriage as well, which is beautiful. So, I actually have been covering a lot of the auctions in the form of a preview for the spring season, and the Geneva auctions I've already covered, and some of which already happened. So if you have any questions about the results, please feel free to send them in. I'm gonna put the link here for the third part of the important watches auction that I will be covering for the rest of the night for the next 2 hours or so. This is a live auction that is going to take place on May 26th, 27th, and 28th at Christie's Hong Kong. A lot of interesting pieces, but an important piece and a significant part of the auction features the Triazza collection, which is one of the most impressive Patek Philippe collections in the world, and part of which Christie's already auctioned off. So last time I was covering it, we actually went through a lot of these exquisite pieces, some of which are extremely rare application pieces that you don't you don't see every day, like the Skymon Tourbillon, which uniquely combines in this instance being already extremely rare, the pink gold case with a black dial, and which has an estimated value at the low end of that pre-auction figure for more than $3 million. For something quite of a different genre, you have this lot number 2355, which is a very unique and extremely rare stainless steel Patek Philippe chronograph that is presented in a cushion style case. And this was an excessively limited edition because they actually came across 16 calibers, basically stashed away somewhere at the Rue de Rhône boutique. And Philipp Stern himself decided that this should be made into a very exclusive and special kind of piece, and only reserved to some very select group of customers. So these are watches that were made in early 2010s, 2012 I think is roughly the dates, with movements that are from 1955. So the 13 ligne Valjoux caliber that was of course hand finished, decorated, assembled, and regulated by Patek Philippe. Of course, even though it comes years after Patek had already transitioned into the PP seal, since the movement is actually from 1955. These are movements that carry the Geneva seal, and that is in itself very exceptional. It's not singular, right? It does happen in certain instances where Patek did limited editions or special requests for very unique customers, something they built, for example, on the Lemania CH27 base. Obviously, those were Geneva seal calibers. but for a piece from 2012 to even have that seal is something quite unique. But these are excessively limited pieces. That lot 2355, for example, was comes with a pre-auction estimate, which at minimum is around 917,000 in US dollars. So these were the kind of pieces that we were looking through while I was going through the lots in this auction last time. I was going to come back to this in yesterday's live stream, but one of our community members, I Heart Maldives, was so generous with a PayPal contribution that instead I dedicated yesterday night's live stream to covering the results of all the 40 lots from the Art of FP Jean auction in Geneva that took place on May 12th. So if you are still interested in that, please do check it out. I will actually send in the link for that, because I think, not to toot my own horn, but I think that was really detailed and quite good. There we go. And now we are back to the important watches and the Triazza collection, which is going to take place at the end of the month at Christie's Hong Kong. Lot number 2343. This is actually Patek Philippe World Time from the Champion collection. It is a reference 5231J. So Clausenet enamel dial with the Americas, Europe, West Asia, and Africa depicted at the center of the dial in that métier d'art fashion. Basically, the micro painting itself is traced out in using these gold threads that are in so many ways as fine and sometimes even finer than a thread of hair, and then the colors are filled in with enamel powder, which gets, of course, fired in the oven until you get the right color. This particular piece, the 5231, comes in a 38.5 millimeter yellow gold case with a matching Patek Philippe déployant clasp with the Calatrava cross on it. One of the things that I really like about Patek World Times is the fact that they're built on micro rotor calibers. So you get the benefit of a self-winding movement, but with the sleekness, with the discretion of hand-wound movement, with a kind of case profile that is more akin to a hand-wound movement, because you sink in that rotor to the level of the bridge plates. And 240 is, of course, one of the best modern Patek Philippe movements. So that is lot 2343, a Patek Philippe World Time reference 5231J from year 2020. The pre-auction estimates at its lower end values the watch at around 95,500 US dollars. Oh yeah, they always have Palwi. They always have a very generic title for these. Like it's like important watches, rare watches, significant vintage and modern timepieces. It's always a generic title, and they add usually a Roman numeral um, next to it a lot of times. It is what it is, you know. Novelties, as they use this fancy word usually for a lot of the new releases in every trade fair, and a lot of times it's just a new dial color, right? So or a new bezel. um Look, I mean, it is all about marketing. It is all about selling a good story, and sometimes all you need is a good title, and a little bit of effort would go a long way for sure. Lot number 2342 is a double sealed Patek Philippe World Timer. This is from previous generation, right, from 2015. It is a 5131J-014. The Clausen enamel miniature painting actually happens to be the same, in the sense that it depicts the same regions of the world, the Americas, Europe, West Asia, and Africa. But again, the uniqueness of the Clausen enamel is, since it is made in this artisanal way, there's always something unique about the painting you get in your watch. So it's a very nice detail. It's something very distinctive about these models. Um, a watch, when it's double sealed or single sealed, means that it arrives to you as it left the manufacturer, as it left the Patek Philippe manufacturer. So for some, that could be something desirable. It's not the kind of thing that I care about, because I buy watches to wear. And to me, in fact, it is something that I would like to avoid, because if I ever buy a watch like this that is double sealed, I'll be afraid to open it. You know, forget about all this mind fuck that you get through sometimes when you have a watch that is new to you, before you get that first nick or scratch. I mean, it's this would be a nightmare for me, but it is something very desirable. It is something increasingly rare because the practices have changed. Um, it's certainly not served to um, most Patek Philippe customers in this way anymore. So it's becoming more and more rare. In this case, you have a world timer with a Clausen enamel dial from almost 8 years ago, double sealed, untouched. So that can be very interesting for some. Lot 2342 is just an example like that. And it is, as you can see, in its sleeve still, unopened. And the pre-auction estimate puts the value of that watch right around $89,200 at its low end. At lot 2340, we have a very special version of one of my favorite recent models by Patek Philippe. I love these perpetual calendars with the retrograde hand. The 5059, for example, is one of my favorite Patek Philippe watches of recent time. This is a very exquisite and exclusive version of it, namely the 5160G, which comes with the styling, the officer case styling, both with the screwed through spring bars and the hinged case back. But in that white gold case, you have, first of all, floral engravings all over, including the case back and the sides, the case flanks. Even the movement itself, the sapphire crystal is framed by an engraved ring. Of course, you get that gold Patek Philippe rotor with the Calatrava cross, and of course the 324 base perpetual calendar retrograde hand movements. The Calatrava cross deployant clasp that you get here is a little more unique, a little more, rare, and fits that engraved floral motif theme. And in fact, even at the center of the dial, you have a motif that complements the rest of the design. I love the blackened white gold applied Breguet style numerals. I absolutely adore that spade set of hands with especially that elegantly twisted minute hand. That's a personal favorite of mine. And of course, the date is actually represented in the form of a scale that resembles a downward facing crescent. And obviously, it snaps back at the beginning of the month. And this is a perpetual calendar, so it can be from 31, it can be from 30, 28, and even 29 in leap years. So a very beautiful and rare piece indeed. That's, onion crown is also delightful. This is lot 2340. And the pre-auction estimate dictates that its value at minimum is around 82,800 in US dollars. Lot 2339 is a Patek Philippe perpetual calendar in a 36 millimeter white gold case. The 3900 series is one of my favorites again. The micro rotor calibers for the perpetual calendars are, for me, such a brilliant detail. Geneva seal, of course, coming from that particular period. This example is from right around 2001. Comes paired with the 18 karat white gold déployant clasp with the Calatrava cross on it. And a gorgeous silver dial. It comes as a full set, which includes a certificate of origin, an additional solid case back in white gold. If you, for whatever reason, want to add heft to your watch, or you just are not perhaps interested at that particular moment in an exhibition case back, there's a setting pin, product literature, and presentation box with the winding mechanism, which you can use as a winder as well. This example of the 3940G has a pre-auction estimate that at its minimum puts the value of the watch around 30,500 US dollars. You have a close relative in the previous lots, an early example, a second series of the 3940J, manufactured in 1988. It comes with an 18 karat gold tank buckle by Patek Philippe and an extract from the archives. Once again, 36 millimeters. Early example of Patek's 3940 perpetual calendar in a yellow gold case, manufactured around 1988, or in fact manufactured in 1988, since it comes with the archival extracts. And the value of the watch, according to the pre-auction estimate, should be at minimum around 28,000 US dollars. At the previous lot, which is lot number 2337, we have a watch that was produced in a very limited run. In fact, in a limited run of only 500 examples between 96 and 97, only in white gold. And the reference was 5038G. As you can see, this particular piece has a very interesting, unique bezel, a black dial with Roman numerals, a self-winding movement with a micro rotor, the 24Q, of course, with the Geneva seal, carrying the hallmark of Geneva, and the matching deployant clasp. This particular piece, largely due to its exclusivity, is at the minimum around 40,750 US dollars. And when it comes to vintage Patek Philippe, right, when you go pre 1989 and long before, of course, black dials are even more intensely desired. But when it comes to even this year range, to get these sorts of prestige complications with black dials, it's not something that is altogether common, right? They're always a little more rare, often a little more exclusive. So that goes some way in explaining the slight premium that this watch has compared to the 3940s that we just discussed. At lot number 2336, we have another single sealed Patek Philippe piece arriving from the manufacturer, untouched, 9 years. This is a 5235G-001, currently discontinued, but the concept is still represented in the lineup with the 5235R, the pink gold version of this with like charcoal dial, I would say, vertically brushed in the same way as this silver gray dial on the white gold example. This one has blue accents, which I find really beautiful and striking, whereas the 5235R has these gilt accents, which have that rosé accent as well. Rosé hue, perhaps. Micro rotor caliber. What we have here is an annual calendar, right? Complication that Patek Philippe introduced in 1996 as their proprietary complication, as their way of making the perpetual calendar a little more of an everyday watch, or rather producing a more quotidian and arguably more accessible fashion. And this is one that they use the regulator dial layout. So what you have centrally deployed is a minute hand, which steals the show. You have a subdial at 12 o'clock, which is actually for the hours. That is a single hour hand. And then you have the small seconds at 6 o'clock, which provides some visual balance as well. And the three calendrical displays are laid out in this triangular fashion with the date at 6 o'clock, with the month right around 2 o'clock, and with the day of the week at 10 o'clock, matched with a navy blue alligator strap, micro rotor caliber, a unique Patek Philippe tang buckle that I've only seen on this model in the contemporary line, and of course the full Monty. Hey JB, chastity belt packaging. Indeed, and Some like it hot, as uh, the movie that you probably like has in the title, right? You are a Marilyn Monroe fan, Jake. Um, this particular piece is actually a great deal on the secondary market. I wouldn't necessarily um, want you to chase after it in auctions, because you never know who is in the room. You never know what is going on in their mind and why they are leaning so hard on a certain piece. But on the secondary market, 5235G is actually something to look out for. If you like the regulator dial layout, if you like the white metal case, the blue accents, if you like the annual calendar as a complication, um, it is one of those gems that trade way below the retail price for the pink gold model, most certainly, and for what it sold for when it was still part of the lineup. In this case, at minimum, the pre-auction estimate is right around $25,500. Welcome, JB. $23.35. We have a classic Calatrava from just a couple of years ago. It is a 5227J with an ivory dial. This Dauphine hands, sweep center seconds, combined finally with baton indices and what is sometimes called a pearled track, but certainly these sunken gold beads that mark the seconds and the minutes, of course, that form the minutes, seconds track. A very classic, beautiful piece. Great dress watch at 39 millimeters, if I'm not mistaken. It actually has a hinged case back, so you can actually prop it open from here, which is a style that I appreciate personally, because you have maybe you have a slight addition of bulk there, both with the sapphire case back and the added hinge, etc. But I always found it more mesmerizing to prop something open. Gives you that old school pocket watch feel in a way, even though it is a wristwatch. But yes, I mean, sapphire crystals, exhibition case backs for a nice movement is always a delight too. This is, of course, with nicely framed date window at 3 o'clock as well. Lot number 2335 has a pre-auction estimate, which is right around 12,750 in US dollars. If you would like me to look into any particular pieces that I've skipped over that I have not covered today, please feel free to send them in. Lot number 2334 is a rare stainless steel ellipse. The ellipse, of course, has the name gold in its name. The French name is ellipse d'or. Often it is called golden ellipse in English, even though That doesn't necessarily refer to the material because they have been produced in platinum for quite some time now to begin with. But the idea was that this was a design that employed, that implemented the principle of the golden ratio, right? Which is, of course, something that goes at least as far back as the ancient Greeks and is used proportionally in architecture. What is always golden about the ellipses are their dials, which are produced from gold blanks, heat blued with a very striking sunburst finish, often. There are other kinds of dials that are offered in this range, but these are the best ones. And this is an absolutely beautiful example. Um, Personally, for me, the only drawback is that this is an example that runs on a quartz movement. I don't even mind the fact that it is rather dainty at 28 by 33 millimeters in terms of its dimensions. Um, but I'm a little irked by the quartz angle. It has these pyramidal, uh, very discrete indices for hour markers and a depiction of the Calatrava cross right in the middle, combined with the pencil hands and a date window. You have something quite discrete, small, and beautiful. The model number is 3930A from 1985. This is only the second example known in the market, apparently. It comes with a certificate of origin and product literature from around 1985. And the pre auction estimate sets the value of this watch at around $5,100 at the minimum. Lot number 2332 is an exquisite piece with a full cloisonné enamel dial that depicts a scene from a Tahitian forest manufactured in 1952. This is a beautiful 18 karat pink gold dress watch by Patek Philippe um, in 35 millimeters of diameter. It has these extended, stylized, and nicely drooping lugs. Has a single Roman numeral at 12 o'clock and alternating stick and pyramidal indices for the hours, pencil hands, which don't intrude much on the scene. A hand wound caliber. The piece arrives with a matching pink gold Patek Philippe buckle, an archival extract that confirms the dial is original to the watch, and a comprehensive booklet that is provided for this watch by Eric Tortella, who is a very important expert. This is only one of the two known examples of 1595 with a cloisonné enamel dial, with this dial being unique. This is a dial that was done by the well-renowned enamel artist of the period, Marguerite Koch. Only 24 examples of this reference were made, and only 2 out of those 24 are made with a Clausenet enamel dial. And those are unique, apparently, in their own right. This is the Tahiti Forêt, the Tahitian forest dial. The other one is apparently Santa Maria Caravel. The present watch was part of a highly important private collection. The good people at Christie say the dial of the present watch should not be underestimated. Since it is a unique and entirely handmade work of art. It was created by one of the great enamel artists of the mid-20th century, Marguerite Koch, whose confidence and experience in working in this very difficult medium of grand feu enamel has rarely, if ever, been equaled. Most interestingly, the present dial has been identified in the workbooks of the dial makers, Sternfrère, as Tahiti Forêt. Indeed, it immediately recalls the landscapes of Paul Gauguin, who painted on the islands in the 1890s. The theme is very refined and different to the better known jungle design, as it features only one large palm tree to the left, whereas the mountains centering the jungle theme is flanked by trees on both sides. Very, very fascinating. Certainly a very rare and unique example of this kind of art. You don't see these every day. And for that reason, lot number 2332 has a pre-auction estimate that places its value in excess of 305,000 in US dollars. That was a reference 1595R with a Clausenet enamel dial that depicts a scene from a Tahitian forest, which is worth more than $300,000. Please hit the like button, by the way, if you can. It is a great help for me. It really helps boost the profile of the channel just a little more. We have 2 beautiful examples of the Tasti Tondi next to each other. These are the legendary hand-wound Patek Philippe chronographs that were, until the 5070 was introduced in 1998, the last solo chronographs made by Patek Philippe. They also have a very solid reputation as a collectible because they represent a very sporty or simply dynamic ethos for their time, with cases made by François Bourgel, screw down backs, and therefore waterproof cases. And finally, they're also very well liked by the collectors for these round pushers with conical guilloche decorated tops, which give the Italian nickname to this particular watch, Tasti Tondi, for round pushers. Let's take a look at these 2 examples, which come from 2 distinct decades. 1463 was discontinued in 1968. So for 3 decades, for 30 years, Patek did not have a solo chronograph in their collection until the 5070 arrived in the scene, and that was a very different kind of watch indeed. And I've talked quite a bit about that watch as well, but this is the example of the 5070. Sorry, the example of the 1463 from 1963 in 18 carats yellow gold with a silvered dial, pencil hands matched with stick markers, tachymeter on the perimeter of the dial, and heat blued hands for the 30-minute totalizer, as well as the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand. Beautiful, balanced, aesthetically pleasing 2-register chronograph layouts. This particular piece is inscribed on the case back in Japanese, which was a gift apparently from Masaichi Nagata, president of Daiei Film, to Mr. Nara, who was a teacher. Very well kept. Very beautifully preserved. A very elegant watch that was truly remarkable for its time, especially for this genre. Right, waterproof, dustproof. This is Rolex territory. Of course, it's not like an oyster case. Let's not fool ourselves. But this is a beautiful Vajou caliber. That carries hallmark of Geneva. This was the caliber, by the way, that we just saw in that exclusive cushion-shaped case stainless steel chronograph, right, which Patek produced from movements from 1955, the 3670, that was built with this movement as well. François Bourgel. Dustproof, waterproof, matching yellow gold clasp, impeccable, incredibly crisp hallmarks for the gold case and the original presentation case as well. Archival extract. This is lot number 2331, which has at its lower end an estimated value of nearly 153,000 US dollars for this watch. Its big brother greets us at lot number 2330. This is an example that was produced in 1951. And as you can see, it is the same case, same pusher, same crown, everything, but it is a watch that has a very different character. Again, the case size is right around 35 millimeters. Um, this particular example also comes with an archival extract in addition to a comprehensive study booklet by Eric Tortella of Tortella and Sons. Beautiful silver dial with applied Breguet numerals, a set of leaf-shaped hands, feuille hands, the tachymeter on the periphery of the dial, a railroad track for the minutes as well, and the heat blued hands for both the 30-minute totalizer and the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand. Once again, the 13 Ling Valjoux chronograph caliber, 13130. The hallmark, once again, extremely crisp. Incredible. And the extract from the archives. This is the lot number 2330 with a pre-auction estimate that sets its value right around 185,000 US dollars. Lots 2329 is a split-second chronograph from a relatively earlier period. This is the 1436. These are, in appearance, in terms of the case, very similar to the precious metal 130s, reference 130s, which were its contemporary in a way as a hand-wound chronograph. This particular example is, of course, a split second chronograph. With a two-tone silver dial. First split seconds chronograph to be produced in series. There's a tachymeter scale and, of course, applied indices, which includes the Arabic numerals at 12 and 6 o'clock. One of only 120 yellow gold examples of the reference 1436. And one of only 59 known to the public. The split second function for this first generation of the 1436 was with the crown, whereas the second generation actually added an extra push button within the crown for the split second function. Everything looks even tidier than most split second chronographs that have an extra pusher on top of the crown. So that is not necessarily something to be lamented. Here's a peek into the movements with the case back removed, the Geneva seal. And the matching Patek Philippe buckle. The hallmarks are relatively crisp. This particular piece also comes with an archival extract as well as a comprehensive study booklet by Eric Tortella. And its value by the pre-auction estimates at its lower end is right around 153,000 US dollars. Lot 2328 is actually a watch that I looked at earlier, but I want to cover it again today because it's just so beautiful with that salmon pink dial. Reference 130 had different kinds of cases between the precious metal and the stainless steel. The stainless steel case has a little bit more of a muscular appearance, lugs that have a thicker profile, more substantive case. Those cases, the stainless steel cases, are produced by Venga, whereas the precious metal versions were made by Émile Vichet, which made the cases for 1518, which made the cases for the first series of 2499, two iconic perpetual calendar chronograph series by Patek. And they have very beautifully extending, elegantly drooping lugs and a slightly smaller case diameter as well. The stainless steel 130 is incredibly delightful piece. A gentleman's chronograph at around 35 millimeters, but still quite wearable as a dressy piece. Here, the combination of the salmon pink dial with the white metal is exquisite. It's only more striking. It's only further enhanced by these beautiful applied Breguet numerals that are matched with very substantive feuille hands, leaf-shaped hands. And of course, the picture is completed with the heat-blued hands for the 30-minute totalizer at 3 o'clock and the centrally deployed chronograph seconds. Of course, there is a continuously running second subdial at 9 o'clock. What an incredible, incredible piece in an absolute peach of a condition as well. The Geneva seal caliber. Which were, once again, in this case, the 13 lean caliber as well. The stainless steel case, the case back, the matching pen buckle, and the archival extracts. Made in 1941, sold on October 30th, 1941. This is the Patek Philippe stainless steel reference 130 hand-wound chronograph from 1941 with lovely salmon pink dial, applied Breguet numerals, lot number 2328, has a pre-auction estimate that's that places its value over in excess of 200,000 in US dollars. This is a very unique Patek watch as well. Slightly confusing, perhaps, for the audience because reference 130 also came as a Calatrava, as a time-only watch too. This is one such example. Once retailed by Patek's dealer in Barcelona, Union, and that remains as an inscription over this subsidiary seconds dial. You have a set of spade hands and kind of like a telephone style Arabic numerals, railroad track for the minutes, an enamel dial, very well preserved case again, a stunning hand wound caliber with a gilt finish, the hallmark of Geneva present in two places. The matching 18 karat yellow gold buckle and the archival extract, which unfortunately does not mention the dial. This is lot number 2327, which is the only known 18 karats yellow gold watch by Patek Philippe that has an enamel dial. And retailed and double signed by Union as well, Barcelona-based retailer. This is lot 2327, and at its lower end, the pre-auction estimates places the value of this watch at around 51,000 in US dollars. Excuse me. We have another unique time-only Calatrava 130. This is a beautiful two-tone sector dial, 18 karat yellow gold. Once again, we have yellow gold case in around 32 millimeters. This particular piece is manufactured in 1924, fully overhauled at Patek in 2022. The watch was retailed by Guillermin in Paris in the era. The piece features several marks on the case for Guillermin and French import marks as well. Comes with the archival extract, a Patek Philippe service invoice from last year, and a comprehensive study booklet by Eric Tortella of Tortella and Sons. It is said to be a very early example, if not the first example, of time-only reference 130. It is possible. It's the one with the earliest serial number that they have ever identified, but it is otherwise still very, very unique in terms of its two-tone sector dial and the time-only sweep seconds configuration. This is lot number 2329. Sorry, lot number 2326. A yellow gold time-only reference 130 with sweep seconds and a beautiful two-tone sector dial, manufactured back in 1924 and sold on New Year's Eve in 1935. This piece is very unique and striking, and the pre-auction estimates puts its value right around 102,000 in US dollars. Thank you, JB. Thank you so much. 1999. I really, really, really appreciate you. Thanks for dropping by, and thanks for your nice words, encouragement, and your super chat. Thank you so much. This, guys, is an incredible piece as well. A first series of 2597 is a veritable unicorn in terms of collectible Patek Philippe watches. This was the first travel time watch by Patek Philippe that was not a world time. Let's get that straight. It has these fascinating pushers on the left flank of the case that have a slight notch. So they are easy to grab and manipulate while the watch is still on your wrist. And the first series of 2597 did not actually have an additional hour hand. So in fact, those notched slide pushers were for you to jump the hour hand in 1 hour increments back and forth as you travel through different time zones. This was also a complication invented and adapted to wristwatches implemented in wristwatches by Louis Cotier, who did the same with the famous world time complication. And this is, again, the forefather of all the Patek travel time, the granddaddy of all Patek travel time watches today. Um, the reason that the first series is incredibly desirable is not only because it is the ancestor and it is the first, but among those first series, apparently, once Patek upgraded the complication, once Patek added that second hour hand, they also supplied their authorized dealers with a conversion set. So to find a 2597 in its original complication that does not have that additional second sand is quite unique. Apparently made only in 75 examples in yellow gold and only 48 known publicly. Its pricing at the time caused quite a ruckus, apparently, when it was introduced in 1958. A piece like this was listed at 2,480 Swiss francs, whereas you could get 2523, which is the 2 crown world time watch with the Clausonet dial, for 2770. So it's quite fascinating. The dial has some oxidization in places. And and the model's full name is, in fact, 2597JHS, which, of course, is heure sautante in French, jumping hour, since you can adjust the hour hand independently. So this is a first series Patek Philippe 2597J in a 35 millimeter yellow gold case, thus manufactured in 1956, lot number 2325, which is a very highly regarded and aspired collectible Patek watch, has pre-auction estimates that places its value in excess of 40,750 in US dollars. Number 2324 is a rare Patek Philippe square piece with spider lugs and its matching bracelets in pink gold. It also has a slightly rose tinted champagne colored dial, which gives it an incredibly uniform and monochromatic identity. It comes with an archival extract, which confirms, in fact, that the watch was, quote unquote, born with the pink gold bracelets, that it, in fact, left the factory originally with that bracelet. This was the first square-shaped Patek Philippe watch with a self-winding movement, reference 2540R. The dial is understood to be a later service replacement by Patek. What a beautiful movement too, even though it's not shaped for the case. That is a gorgeous crown, a gorgeous rotor. Wow. And you can see that it has an S and L engraving on the back, which refers to that famous Caracas-based retailer for Rolex, for Patek Philippe, and others, Serpico y Laino. A fantastic crown with outward facing two P's. You can see that the case has seen some polish, right? The hallmarks are not as crisp as some examples we have seen on this auction, but it still looks quite healthy. Sold with the pink gold matching bracelets. Manufactured in 1956, sold by Serpico e Laino in 1957. This is the 2540R, the first square-shaped Patek Philippe reference with a self-winding movement, here matched with an original 5-row brick-style pink gold bracelet and a pink dial, which is said to be a later service replacement, but really completes this beautiful monochromatic picture. Lot number 2324 has a pre-auction estimate that is in excess of $61,000 at the minimum. We have a beautiful Calatrava at lot number 2323 in stainless steel. This is a reference 2457, manufactured in 1950, with a hand-wound movement and a 31.5 millimeter case. Comes with an archival extract that confirms that the watch indeed left the factory with this beautiful silver sunburst dial with applied Breguet numerals, a set of leaf-shaped hands, and sweep center seconds hand, which is heat blued, completes this exquisite picture. The watch has a worn but beautifully preserved look, which I really like, especially for this sort of stainless steel piece. Very elegant, but also very everyday looking as well. Caliber 27 SC with the Geneva hallmarks. and the archival extract, which confirms the dial with the Breguet numerals. The pre-auction estimate at its low end puts the value of this watch at around 25,500 US dollars. This was a reference 2457 in stainless steel, a 31.5 millimeter Calatrava with a striking silver sunburst dial and Breguet numerals. Please hit the like button if you haven't done so already. It really helps a great deal in boosting the profile of the channel, in bringing more people into the channel and expanding our community. Before this night's live streams, including the captain's unboxing, I was on the precipice of crossing over to 1500, which may have already happened, but I really want this channel to cross at least 2.5K at the end of the year. So if you could help me do that, I would very much appreciate it. Increasingly, there is more content that you can share that is at around 1 hour, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. There are the shorts. So please share with friends. Please send around on social media, on your Instagram stories, on Twitter. DM your friends. Help me out. I would really appreciate it. It helps a great deal. Now we're looking at a reference 96, the OG Calatrava, so to speak. In this case, we have a 31 millimeter stainless steel case, a two-tone dial, right? This, what we call also Arabic numerals at quarters with a slightly oversized subsidiary dial for the seconds that has a sector dial layout as well, which is very complementary. Leaf-shaped hands for hours and minutes. A gorgeous hand-wound caliber. Very old school. And an extract from the archives that confirms the dial as well. The date of sale is August 1937. And the pre-auction estimate for this OG Patek Philippe Calatrava is right around 25,500 in US dollars. At lot number 2321, we have a white gold Calatrava with a smooth domed bezel, an elegant stepped lugs for the case, 36 millimeter white gold case matched with a white gold Patek Philippe bracelets, a silver dial with pencil hands and stick markers, a pearl track with gold beads for the minutes, and a crosshair subdial for the small seconds. The piece comes also with an additional black Patek Philippe crocodile strap and the archival extracts. This particular piece is one of the only 5 known to the market. What a beautiful movements indeed. Once again, caliber 27 460, carrying the hallmarks of Geneva. Manufactured in 1962. Look at those lugs, man. What an elegant, elegant piece. The white gold bracelet. You can see the clasp with a little Calatrava cross detail on the closure, and the extract of Patek Philippe from the archives that confirms all the details, as well as the sale, which was on November 6th. The piece was originally sold with a leather strap and later matched with that 18 karat white gold Patek Philippe bracelet, just as an additional detail. Lot number 2321, which is Patek Philippe Calatrava 36 millimeter case in white gold with a white gold Patek Philippe bracelets in this mesh style, manufactured in 1962, has an estimated value that at the minimum puts it around 20,400 US dollars. Some really amazing and rare pieces, some of which are not astronomical. You know, just to keep it in check. Again, I'm not saying it's cheap in any way. I would love to stay until the midnight. If you guys have any questions, pose them. I have 4 more left in this auction to present, 4 more watches. So if you want me to present on any other watches that I didn't cover tonight or that I skipped over, feel free to send them in with the lot number. If you have any other watch related questions, for example, you know, if you want to ask about some auction results and what I think about them that came in from Geneva yesterday and earlier today, feel free to do that. Or any watch related questions whatsoever, send them in. I'm going to go through these 4 lots in backwards fashion from 2320 to 2317. And in the meantime, feel free to think of questions if you would like, or I can, of course, just close after these 4 as well. This is lot number 2320. Another great example of a white gold Patek Philippe on matching bracelets. This is a reference 3514, 33.5 millimeter white gold case with an 18 karat white gold Patek Philippe bracelet, a silvered dial that ensures that monochromatic look with a very warm patina too. Date at 3 o'clock, stick markers, pencil hands, small seconds, right over 6 o'clock, and the beaded minute track. And a beautiful self-winding piece. with the Patek Philippe clasp on, with the Calatrava cross detail on the clasp. This example of the 3514 in white gold on the bracelets has a pre-auction estimate that puts its value right over $10,000, around 10,200. Eddie, nice to see you, man. Nice to see you in the chat. I'm sure you have been around, don't take me wrong, but I haven't seen your name for a while now. So it's nice to see it again. Nice to know that you're around. $23.19 is a stunning piece as well, with a beautiful kind of a Prussian blue sunburst dial, 35 millimeter case. This is a reference 3445 in 18 karat white gold. Time and date Patek dress watch. I really like the structure of this case with these slightly extended angular lugs. Stepped, subtly stepped bezel with lovely domed crystal. And of course, that blue dial makes all the difference in this case. Made from 1969, a sunburst blue dial that the good folks at Christie's describe as metallic blue. Comes with a matching white gold buckle and an archival extract that confirms the origination of the watch, indeed, with this dial. Right. It is, in fact, the archival extract that describes it as sunburst metallic blue dial with applied white gold hour markers. Beautiful. Manufactured in 1969, sold on August 26th, 1969. This is lot number 2319, an example of 3445, a 35 millimeter white gold Calatrava with a beautiful construction and a striking and unique metallic blue dial. The estimated value of the piece is right over $10,000 again. Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate you, man. Lot number 2318 is a very rare and beautiful 34 millimeter Patek Philippe dress watch in platinum. Hand-wound movement, a silvered factory diamond set dial, matching platinum Patek Philippe buckle, and the extract from the archives. Only 2 platinum examples of this reference, which is 2591/1, are known to exist with subsidiary seconds, with small seconds. And the case has a very unique construction that makes it look like a floating disc, right? Even the crown is arranged to sit as flush as possible with the case to preserve that almost perfectly round shape. Very sharp hallmark, which testifies largely to the condition of the case. The archival extract confirms that the watch left the manufacturer with the diamond hour markers, made in 1961, sold on June 20th in 1963. This was a rare Patek Philippe dress watch, wonderfully round and discreet. Reference 2591/1 in a 34 millimeter platinum case, hand wound movement, and a silvered dial that is factory set with diamonds as its indices. Those diamonds are brilliant for the most part and baguette cut for 3, 9, and 12 o'clock, and a crosshair register for the small seconds. The estimated value of this Patek Philippe dress watch from the early 60s is once again in excess of $10,000 at the minimum. Now, possibly for the last watch we are going to talk about tonight before I close the show. I'm so glad it comes with a salmon dial. Salmon is the new black, as I said many times over the last year, and it is prophecy. And I say that incredibly jokingly, of course. I take myself very seriously, as you guys know, but not that seriously. But it is a prediction that I made that is hitting the ground running, that it has been proven right. Every brand is releasing at least a limited edition of a copper dial, of a pink dial, of a salmon dial. Yeah, the blue is here to stay. Yes, green had its moment at a certain point in time. There are different sorts of trends with smoked dials, the fumé kind of executions, but the salmon is also having its moment. I'm not sure if it will ever become as popular and as much of a trend as a blue dial. Probably not. It is just a more unusual color to begin with. And obviously, it is still a shade of pink in a male dominated market. So it won't be the first watch that everyone goes for. But this is what we are closing on tonight. Please hit the like button if you're on your way out. We are looking at a Calatrava with the reference number 3796S. White gold piece in 30.5 millimeters. It comes with a matching 18 karat white gold Patek Philippe buckle and the archival extract. Hand wound caliber based on 215 with the Geneva seal, which you can see through the exhibition case back. The matching white gold Patek Philippe buckle in the newer style, since this is a watch that was manufactured in 1996 and sold before the end of that year on September 26th. The archival extract, in fact, testifies to the origination of this watch, to the fact that this watch left the manufacturer with that salmon dial, which has the obis indices, the applied obis indices, with that dotted track for the minutes. You also have at 6 o'clock a small seconds dial and a set of Dauphine hands that go really well with those obus indices. A very elegant watch, perhaps considered small, even dainty by today's standards, at least by some. I would love to own a watch like this, hopefully sooner than later. This is lot number 2317 for a Patek Philippe Calatrava in 18 karat white gold, reference number 3796S from 1996. The estimate in this case, 2, is at its lower end right around $10,000, more specifically around 10,200. And that was, in fact, the last watch I'll be presenting on tonight. I had a live stream, a very special unboxing with the captain right before this. That was right around an hour, and we are nearing 1 hour here. So in a way, I completed my 4-hour shift, so to speak. Please do feel free to watch the unboxing with the captain. It is in bite-size 1-hour interview format. Check it out. I just posted the link. If you have any last-minute questions, feel free to squeeze them in. In either case, it was great to be with you. It was lovely to preview the auction that is going to take place at the end of the month at Christie's Hong Kong. Also, I want to once again remind you of a few things. Please share the channel. Help me bring more people into this community. Help me expand this community that we're building on pure horology, the passion for watches, the knowledge that we share and therefore compound on this platform. The more, the merrier in that case. So share all the contents that you can, from the shorts to 10 to 15 minutes, more explanatory scripted videos to the 1-hour interviews. Invite people into the live streams. Some people do like the spontaneity and extended conversational pace of those videos as well. And I think it's still a strong point of the channel, and help me cross another threshold. I appreciate your upvotes. I genuinely appreciate your super chat, your generous 1999 super chat, Jake Brooks. Thank you so much. And I also want to remind you that this channel is fully autonomous, entirely independent, and therefore it is not only at the service fully of its audience, but it's also at the behest of that audience. So if you would like to help me increase the quantity and quality of content on this channel, you can always contribute. I have a PayPal for this. I have a Cash App for this. The links are included in the video description, and I've just sent them into the chat and pinned them. So if you want to contribute, the links are there. If you join me on Patreon, I send 3 links to watch deals on a regular basis, on a daily basis. And I have an exclusive recording explaining my reasoning behind choosing those watches. So even as I give you those value propositions, whether you are ready to buy, whether you're interested in that particular watch to purchase at the moment or not, you end up taking this journey with me where you learn more about watches that fell under the radar for the most part in the mainstream coverage, and watches that actually have enormous value for the collector. So that's a great option, and you can avail yourself of that if you click the link to Patreon. I think the tiers are very clearly laid out. I have other consulting services that I make available for you on Patreon, but you already have a direct access to me when you sign up on Patreon on a very regular basis. And that's a way to develop our conversations as well. So please feel free to check out that option. In either case, again, I remain eternally grateful for your presence and support. Um, Even if you are just there, it's great to have you. If you click the like button, I love you. If you contribute even more, I'm forever indebted and grateful to you. And with that, I'm closing for tonight. Thank you again so much for being with me and the captain on the unboxing, and being with me and Aussie Expats. And check out Aussie Expat Watches as well for part of this show, and sharing with me my excitement about some of these beautiful Patek Philippe pieces that are going to be auctioned off by Christie's at the end of the month in Hong Kong. I'm signing off now, but I'll be with you tomorrow as well. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, wear your watches, enjoy them, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.